Hello everybody, I'm Roadblock. This is a Raid Shadow of Legends video, and for the first time on our channel, I'm not alone. We're here today with BigPoppaDrock. You probably know him. He's very active in the arena. I've gotten many tips myself from his content. How are you doing today, Drock?
Hey, Roadblock, I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me on for your first ever collab on your channel, dude. So thank you so much for letting me be the first.
Oh, no, I super appreciate you being here. I'm very excited, and let's just kind of jump right into what we're here to talk about, right? Um,
Yeah.
So we know how you feel about PvP, right? We're all familiar with that.
Everybody has
Everybody has it.
polymorph. Your nukers have polymorph. Your support has polymorph. Your mother has polymorph.
But I'm curious about what your top frustrations are with PvE. So I thought we'd talk about that a little bit. What do you say?
Hey, listen, I'm down. I don't usually get to talk a lot of PvE, so I'm always down to chop it up. And certainly, I think we all know my frustrations with PvP and what those are. So this will be fun because I haven't prepared a single thing. We're going to discover my frustrations together because I don't even necessarily know them all off the top of my head. So this should be fun.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, let's jump into it. What would you say? Let's just go with your number one. What do you got?
All right, so I was thinking about this when we were chatting, getting everything set up, and I think there's a couple. It depends on like if you're talking about my free to play account or my main account, my pay to win account.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say one of the frustrations I have right now, I think that's a common frustration for a lot of players, is I am not a fan of how they balanced Hydra.
Okay.
And what I'll say is this: they absolutely needed to do a balance on Hydra. It was 1,000,000% not fair that one person could put up enough to defeat another clan, and that you had essentially one team comp that was the required comp in order to really compete at the high level. So there's no doubt that they had to do something. I just one of the things that bothers me when Plarium does changes is a lot of times they don't seem to test their changes out, and there are always major bugs or major problems. And I think this Hydra rebalance is a great example where you've got heads of the serpent coming back, and they've got serpent's will, and they're completely immune to damage, and it's multiple heads, and they've said they're going to address this stuff, but I just think they went completely overboard in making this way too punitive for the average player in Hydra. I think it doesn't hurt the people on the high end, but I know certainly it's made it way harder on my free to play account. I know it's made it way harder for a lot of people. And I think they could have done this maybe in a different way, or just balance the champions that were the main issue,
Okay.
without having to make the mode so much harder.
Okay. Yeah. When I first heard about the changes, I was in defense of them a little bit, probably for the same reasons that you opened up with, that something needed to happen. I do agree that it's a little over the top. I have one idea that I think that would make it a little bit better. I want your take on it since we're talking
Yeah,
about it.
sure.
Instead of making the heads under a block damage buff, essentially, when they come back, I think it would be better if they were just unkillable. You still
Hmm.
get them to take a turn, right? They still get to take a turn, which is the whole reason that they're doing the block damage in the first place. But players still get the opportunity to do damage to them with a 75% damage reduction, or maybe you increase that to 85. But zero damage is soul crushing, you know?
Yeah, I could totally see that working. I think it would be a better solution than what we have now. I mean, obviously you'd have to decide, like, there are champs that can kill unkillable or kill through unkillable, but if you're putting a damage reduction up there as well, it should help mitigate some of that. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I mean,
Not
I
a
have no
literal
idea the
unkillable.
best way.
Not
Like,
a
and
literal
anyway,
unkillable, but like
got it.
the kind of block damage that they're under now, you know?
Okay, got it. So no
Yeah,
matter what, they can't just be blasted.
correct.
They're
You cannot,
okay.
no matter
Sure.
what, they can't go below 1 HP.
Okay. Sure.
And that way you don't run into the situation where you can, because that's why I assume they want them under block damage, right? So they don't
Yeah.
get a,
They don't get killed.
they do get a turn, and you have to do mechanics, and that was my
Yes.
defense of it. But to be able to see 3 heads, sometimes even 4 heads, if you're really unlucky, that all have the debuff, it's very, very frustrating. So
Yeah.
I
It's
agree with you
crazy.
there.
All right. Cool. All right.
So
That's one.
yeah,
Here's
that's
another.
one. Alrighty.
Yeah, I've got another for you. Um, Look, I'm not gonna lie. I really hate Curse City. I hate this game mode so much for a couple different reasons. One, it has added so much time in game for me having to do this every day, and that's actually going to be my third. So I'm going to make this 2 and 3 together.
Okay.
Because time in game for PvE elements is still a massive issue. In that faction wars can't be fully autoed, Doom Tower can't be fully autoed and just instant completed. You can't instant complete a Hydra run, and obviously that's, maybe you don't want to now with the changes they made. But combine that with this mode, Cursed City, which has added so much time, and which I really truly feel is just not good game design. And the reason why I feel that way is they have purposely made it so that the champions you are limited to, first off, the limitations on the hard stuff in Centranos and the Curse and whatever the what's the last area called? I can't even remember. Soul Cross.
Yeah, Soul Cross. Yeah.
The limitations in there are not only extremely punitive, they're extremely stupid. And what I mean by that is this. They've got stages where you are forced to pick the wrong affinity matchup and essentially rely on RNG in order to clear a level. That is not fun. That is just bad game design. Like, I understand what they're trying to do here. They're trying to make it challenging for endgame players, but making it challenging by making it an RNG fest is absolutely foolish in my opinion. So I truly hate this content. I think that there is potential if they just rework some of this to at least give you more options that are smart affinity picks, where your entire roster, for example, is not force affinity champions going up entirely spirit-based champions, like that one stupid Uko versus Mortu Macabre level where he just ends up annihilating you. And certainly this has gotten a little bit better with the addition of area bonuses for this specific mode, and also the addition of being able to save gear presets globally and switch them around on champions. But I'm going to die on this hill. I still think this is just poorly designed content that had a lot of potential, but it's just really not well done on some of these stages.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great take. I'm in agreement with you. It feels a lot more like a chore than a lot of other areas of the game feel like. So I'm showing on my screen right now, I'm showing my hard Centranos. You can see, like, I'm done for the rotation. None of these levels I'm going to try any longer. And, we've got a level right here where, I do have this Timid that's 60, but I don't have anybody that can do this level that's level 60. And this guy doesn't even have any gear on him, I don't think. So, and obviously I haven't been playing as long as you and a lot of other content creators, but it's the most frustrating thing to be limited by my roster. I would rather be limited by my skill or my ability to play the game.
Yes.
Than be limited by the amount of the amount and type of champions that I've collected.
Yes. It's a hard check too. Like, there are just certain stages you can't do without certain champions. And I think one of the other things that really bugs me about this mode, once you realize it, is they made this to sell mythicals. There's really no other take here, because mythicals, and I know Saf did a breakdown of this, but you have so many more options on these stages with mythical champions, where because one's a support and one's also a defense and attack and defense, like, you have way more opportunities to use mythical champions than you do have anything else.
Yeah.
So that's part of the frustration as well, because there are certain levels where if you have an Alaz with counterattack, suddenly that level becomes doable. Whereas if you don't, you are just going to be wanting to pull your hair out. I'm talking specifically about some of the Fire Knight bosses that they have in that. So yeah, it's like, I understand the what they were going for here. I just think it's poorly executed.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. I also wanted to piggyback on your comment about time a little bit too, because that's kind of tied into this one. I'm curious, do you run like very efficient teams? Like, do you have like 30-second teams for your dungeons and such, or are you more just kind of like, it works, let's run it?
It's funny that you mentioned that. On a couple of stages of dungeons, I've built like pretty solid teams. I've never really taken the time to build a top like, oh, I'll clear this stuff in 20 seconds or 10 seconds, depending on the dungeon. You know what I mean? Like, I have that for spiders. It clears in like 13 seconds, and dragons clears in between 20 and 30 seconds for hard mode. Same with spider for hard mode. But not everything. Like, I just rebuilt my my Iron Twins thing so that it completes in about 48 seconds typically, and I was doing like around 2 or 3 minutes before. I just like not a PvE guy. I don't
Yeah.
get enjoyment out of solving the PvE puzzle. Which is why it's so funny that we're talking about this, because even people like me who aren't PvE players still have things that they're like, oh man, I really wish they changed this.
Yeah, no, that's why I wanted to see, I have my frustrations in PvP, but I don't, and we may talk about those later, but I don't know what your, what do PvP players care about these same things that frustrate us over in the PvE world. So,
I
okay.
think some do, because some people are both. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people love both PvE and PvP.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got 3. What do we got? We got 2 more to go. What else you got?
All right. This is one that everybody can agree with, and it drives me crazy that they refuse to fix this, or I should say improve this, and they've purposely ignored it. Is, guys, come on, man. Why can't I have Minotaur 25 or Potion Keep 25? You know what I mean? Where I can run this stuff and get better value. And I'm going to tie in with this, because this is actually going to tie in with another thing as well, because it's the same kind of principle where, you know what I mean? If you look at the potion keeps, you get to Potion Keep 20 and you no longer get the small potions, right? This is what they've established. This was established early on in the game's history. Now, Minotaur, they won't let you go beyond 15, so you never get an opportunity, to get more scrolls per stage, because they want you to burn more energy, or they want to force you into getting gems. But similarly, I have a serious problem with the balancing in Sand Devils and Phantom Shogun's Grove, because it is absolutely out of control. That I'm looking at my stuff right now, Roadblock, on my side, and you would not believe how many small like potions I have versus anything else. I'll just tell you, I have 271,000 lesser oils versus only 9,900 greater oils, and only 4,000 superior oils. The ratio in this stuff is ludicrously unfair to the player. And the fact that you can't, I'm again tying in more here, you got me on a rant. The fact that you can't make these lesser oils or these lesser whatever into the medium, or take the medium, make it into the superior, is just absolutely absurd, because that is an established mechanic in different areas. In the Potion Keep, you can do that. Why can't you do that with the oils? And the answer is they want you to spend more money on energy. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That stuff drives me crazy, because it's such a nice quality of life thing that they could do to make people happy. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I really don't think it's going to affect their bottom line that much. And yet here we are, they won't do it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't think about it that much. I do a lot of Sand Devil, but no, I mean, did you? How many superiors did you say you have?
I have 271,000 small ones.
But how many superiors do you have?
Only 4,000.
Okay, because I have 400. So
yeah,
like...
I mean, I might have done a little whaling, but I'm just saying that ratio is crazy. Like, what is that ratio?
Absolutely, yes.
What is that ratio?
Is. Yeah, no, I agree. I was just I couldn't get that number out of my head. I was like, wow. So, but yeah, I agree. If I may, one other frustration that I have along those lines, why don't they do any tournaments for the Phantom Shogun's Grove?
You know what's funny? We've actually asked. We've asked, and in creator chat, and they said basically that they wanted to put a priority on Sand Devils for a while, and that maybe at some point they might do the other. But it's just kind of like, what?
Yeah.
Like I guess because there are more artifacts than there are accessory slots, so that's their thought process. But it's a very valid question. Like, the only tournament you get is for Sand Devil and not for Phantom Shogun.
Yeah, I feel like they did one. I feel like I remember one that they did.
I don't think they've done a single one. Not for like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But maybe they did like one unrelated. I don't know. I don't.
My brain is not trustworthy. Believe me. I had an argument with my chat on stream one day where I was telling them, no, I swear I had a double legendary with void shards. I swear it happened, and no, it did not. It never, obviously, right? So my memory is not is not it. So we may not have ever had one, but it is frustrating to not have a reason to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I do all the Sand Devil tournaments because I'm excited to do it. Good rewards, good, you know, you get the stuff you need, but I never have an excuse to do Shogun. I end up doing it usually during CVC. I miss
Yeah.
out on some silver, but I get good points. So that's kind of the trade-off. But
Yep. I feel that.
all right. Well, that's 4. We got one more. I'm
We got
curious to
one
see what
more.
this one is.
Yeah, I'm gonna make this on this theme. I'm gonna tie it in with a couple different things here. So
Okay.
this is a multi one. So I don't like that the Iron Twins rewards are different for Void versus everything else. Like every single one of those Iron Twins should be as good as Void. Like, you know, you get basically nothing for doing Iron Twins on the daily if it's not Void. If it's Void, it's a little bit better, but like regular affinities, it's terrible. And then kind of a similar thing is, I like this idea of an event dungeon that they've put in, right? Like, oh, okay, cool, limited time dungeon. That's exciting. That's fun. But the problem is the gear that they've put in this basically negates every bit of farming you might have done for 5 years in this game. Like, that's how absurdly overpowered pinpoint gear is with that speed boost. And I really, really wish from a PvE perspective, because this also affects PvP, that they had not made this gear set as powerful as it is, because it has led to a massive shift in PvP. And it's also become a complete necessity to do as much as you can in PvE. And the other problem is, because it's an event dungeon and it's on a timer, I have no idea when we're going to get a chance to come back and get that gear again. And it's massively important. So this is kind of like ties into the video we're going to do on my channel, because I know we're going to talk about PvP stuff for you on my channel, because I know you're not as much of a PvP guy. But this drives me crazy. These two things, I just, it really gets me, Roadblock. It really gets me.
No, I hear you. Because I am a PvE guy, it didn't impact me as heavily. I'm not. We'll talk about it more on your channel, but I'm not big on Arena. So it's less impactful for me. But I can totally understand how frustrating that could be for PvP. Because if you just got unlucky, and I remember watching on your channel, I think you said that you have a ton of accessories, but it's the gear, the actual artifacts that are what's holding a lot of players back, right?
The drop rate is horrific. The drop rate is horrific in that dungeon. Like, you will get accessory after accessory, but you can't get artifacts because of the other artifact sets. Like, that's the other thing too. It should have just been only pinpoint. That's it. There's no crappy critical rate. Or if you're gonna put other artifacts sets in there, at least make them speed. But notice how they did not do that. You know what I mean? So it's the Plarium way, right? They can never just do the right thing entirely. They have to make it painful, and they have to make it something that is frustrating for the player base. So I could go on an entire rant about that alone, but like, it's such an easy win where you're still going to make buku bucks because Plarium's a business, right? But at least the player feels like they get something in return, where it's like, okay, there's actually some decent other sets in here to make farming this dungeon maybe not as bad.
Yeah, no, it's I didn't do nearly as much as I should have in that dungeon. It was just timing and everything. It just, you don't always have time to farm the dungeons as much as you want.
Hey,
so
don't feel bad, dude. I put probably 500,000 energy into that dungeon and walked with only a couple of pieces that were triple rolls. I mean, it was disgusting. Like, but like, if you want to compete in PvP, PvE is important. And so that's a great example of it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think you can see my screen. We had some difficulties with that earlier, but these are all the artifacts that I've got. And then for accessories, this isn't really PvP related. I like that they organized this, but sometimes I feel like this could be a little better, don't you think?
Are you kidding? This is my number one complaint right now. Like, legitimately, more than anything else.
More than Armands?
Like, more than Armands, more than anything right now, because it affects every aspect of the game. And so I was going to say this, but I was like, is it technically PvE? I'm just going to leave it alone. But here's a bonus one for you. For the
Okay.
love of God, give us a real gear filter. Like, we need to be able to sort only perception piece or pinpoint pieces, or only this type of piece, or only that type of piece in accessories specifically, so that we can look at that entirely. And this is what drives me crazy, because it's been 5 years. How do we not have the ability to sort by gear level yet? Like, why can't I say level 0 or level 1 to 3 or level, or like level 1 to 4 or level 5 to 8? Like, let me sort the gear
Yeah.
by levels so I can quickly find the pieces I need to. Like, how
I've
do we
never
not
thought
have
about
this
that.
stuff? It's
I've never thought about
terrible.
that, but I like that. That's true.
It's
Like, if
terrible.
you're looking for a piece to upgrade, right? And it's like, well, just show
Yeah.
me all my level 8 pieces. Let me find the best
Yes.
one. Boom. All right,
Let,
now
let me
you're.
just see what I
Yep.
need. Like, I'd have to do a Forge Pass quest to roll something to level 8. Well, let me just find the ones that I haven't rolled at all, or the ones that are sub level 8.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's quality. The biggest thing that I want on a Plarium in the next year is, please, quality of life improvements, real quality of life improvements, because there are so many things. I could go on a literal hour-long list of small stuff that doesn't take a long time to improve, but that would make a massive impact on the enjoyment of playing Raid on a day-to-day basis. And it's all quality of life stuff that
Yeah.
I guarantee, if they just did it like buckled down for a month, they would see a massively positive reception from the community. So yeah, add it to the list. I gave you a bonus one there.
Well, so we have a little bit of extra time too, and I kind of want to ask one last question too.
Sure.
Um, and I guess so. I've been seeing this a lot in content creation. That there's an argument out there that the dungeons are not worth it, and I
Mm-hmm.
suspect that's probably even more so for a PvP heavy player, other than the speed gear. I would assume, right?
Yeah, well, so here's the thing. Like, they're still worth it in specific niche areas. I mean, Spider basically isn't. You can just toss Spider out at this point, unless you happen to get one like banner that has a god tier quintuple mythical roll on speed. But
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, for the most part, Spider is completely pointless now. They have just wrecked that dungeon's viability, which really sucks, because they still make you do tons of tournaments
Mm-hmm.
in these dungeons where you don't get benefits, right? Now, I think you could make an argument that Fire Knight and Dragon are still viable, especially because speed gear is still very, very important, more important than ever, honestly, because like PvP is now 1,000,000% of speed race in a way that it's never been before. It's
Mm-hmm.
never been this bad in PvP. So yes, like Dragon is still definitely something worth doing. And Fire Knight, I think even for Savage, yes, you can create and craft lethal gear that's mythical now. You could do that, but you're very limited on how often you get that, since it's only 3 months. So I would argue that Fire Knight and Dragon are still useful, but certainly you don't get the same value out of it that you used to. And if you're a big spender, you're frankly just better off waiting until they offer like the mythical Savage pack and just dropping your cash on that. You're going to get a better outcome than you will from putting 100,000 energy into a dungeon most of the time.
Wow, that's interesting. I had never.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. The big players, that's what they do. Like, yeah, they'll farm the stuff, and certainly, like, obviously, event dungeons, you can't buy the pieces there, which is a good thing, I think, in some ways.
Yeah.
But if you're a whale, if you're a
Yeah.
kraken, you're so much better off just buying the gear, because
Yeah.
you're getting
Okay.
guaranteed mythical pieces. And if you see the drop rates for this stuff, it's incredibly difficult to get. And let alone, like, when you get it, you might get a drop, but then, like, what are the substats? You know? So
Yeah.
you spend $50, you get 6 pieces that are all mythical guaranteed. That's potentially 10,000 energy right there, like straight up, or more, possibly more. So yeah, so that's another thing to consider. But I think there's still some viability with the dungeons, but definitely not Spider. Spiders, forget it. Unless you're like super free to play, really early game, obviously a little bit different. But if you've been playing for a while, it's just not worth it anymore.
Yeah. No, I've always wondered that. In fact, I think I asked you on your stream once. How does pay to win get better gear? And that you just summed it up right there. That makes a lot of sense. I'd never thought
Yep.
about that. So
Massive energy and massive packs. It's a combo of both for the biggest whales.
all right. Well, good to know. Well, hey, I appreciate you hanging out with me today. I think we actually covered a lot of really good stuff, and I had a lot of fun doing it as well. So just want to tell everybody where they can find you, and I'll put a link in the description as well.
Yeah, dude, thank you so much for having me on. And honestly, I'm honored to get to be the first person to collab with you, dude. That's such a fun thing and such a really generous opportunity to bring me on. So I hope your audience enjoyed it, and can't wait for us to do a collab on my channel now. You know, flipping the script a little bit. So I'm excited to hear your thoughts.
All right, yeah, like Drock just said, head on over to his channel. You can catch me over there. We're gonna talk some PvP over there from my perspective. But as always, guys, thank you for watching. If you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing and clicking that like button. Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye.